everybody, this is Namanjan and welcome back to this series of tutorials where you're gonna learn how to make a role-playing game. Today we're gonna learn on how to make animations and how to make our game more beautiful just in general. So before we actually start this tutorial, you are gonna go to this website over here, the Unity Asset Store, and you will have to sign up to the Unity Asset Store. However, it is completely free and it is definitely worth. And you will have to go to the skeleton pack. So basically, once you go on the Unity3D .com site, you can go to the Asset Store and just type in skeleton pack and take the one from BSH game. This one basically. I will put the link in the description below so you can actually directly go there. Okay, so now once you have downloaded it, you're gonna see a couple of files in your asset store, and now we can start. Okay, so first of all, this is getting a little messy, so we're gonna create a new folder, and we're gonna call it assets, or actually we're gonna call this skeleton pack. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna drag in skeleton data. We're gonna drag in particles inside skeleton pack and prefabs inside skeleton pack. There might be a chance that it might already been imported in a folder, and then it's fine. So we're gonna go in and we're gonna go into the prefabs folder, and in the prefabs folder, you're gonna find these four different these skeletons over here. Now, prefabs are basically game objects that are saved into your asset folder. So basically, you can just drag them in, and they're gonna be there. And prefabs are marked blue. And now the difference between this prefab and all the other prefabs that are marked black is that these prefabs are, as I said, saved in these folders. So now what's going to happen is if I actually have multiple skeleton dark over here, so I'm just going to drag one more. And in my prefab, if I change my skeleton dark name to skeleton dark underscore 1, you're going to see that it's going to change for all the prefabs. So that is one quality of a free prefab, that if you change anything inside a prefab, it's going to take effect in the whole scene. Unless you decide to deconnect it from the prefab, which we're going to talk about later. So we're going to delete this, and we're going to rename it back to skeleton dark. And we're going to drag in a skeleton dark in our scene as I did, and we're going to set the position to 0, 0, 0, and our rotation to 0, 0, 0. And now we're going to just drag it out. Now you're going to see that the skeleton dark is very small, and it actually has a particle effect. We're going to talk about particle effects later on. Now for now we're going to scale it to a reasonable size. That seems reasonable. Yep. Okay. So now what we're going to do is you can see that we have our player script over here, and what we want to essentially do is we want to transfer our script from player to skeleton dark. So we can just go here, we can copy our component, copy our click to move, and paste it. So you can go to the settings over here into the animations tab and paste component as new, and then you can copy the player component and paste component as new. Or what you could do alternatively is you can add component and add player and manually add the values. That is another option. Now I'm going to explain you what this particular prefab actually is. So you're gonna this prefab is actually a model. So if you go into its import settings, where I'm not sure where it is, here. So as you can see, this is a model. You don't need to know this, but it's extra information which might help. Which is a model. If you go over here to skeleton data and you go to skeleton, it has animations over here. and Reagan animations and other kind of stuff. So basically, you can um, you can run these animations through our code, and that is how you're gonna have an attack animation, and that is how you can have combat systems or a die animation or a get hit, and you can preview them as I'm doing over here. Okay, so now back to our skeleton. So first of all, it is important to know that there is an animation component attached to this prefab, and it has 7 animations. So the way we're going to play the animations is we're going to say, okay, we're going to retrieve this animation like we retrieved our nav mesh agent. Like our nav mesh agent, this is another component called animation, and we're going to say get component animation, and we're going to code in just a moment. But before that, we also need to have a nav mesh agent, because our click to move requires a nav mesh agent. I'm pretty sure yes, it does. And we're just gonna set our nav mesh agent. It's too big. Radius is gonna be 0.25. Oops. And our where's our height? Our height is over there. Okay, our height is going to be 1. And that seems about right. Yeah, okay. And we can disable this player over here, because we don't need that player anymore. And this should work as normal. Well, the speed is going to be really slow. But yeah, as you can see, this works as normal. And if you press spacebar, or actually we need to hover over enemy, and if you press spacebar, our enemy should be taking damage, which it didn't actually. Oh yeah, it is taking damage. Okay, as you can see over here, it's -50. And yeah, we need to set our nav mesh agent. As you can see, they're actually pushing us behind, and we need to reduce our where is it, avoidance priority to 25, or anything lower than the enemy, because if it is lower than the enemy, they will not be able to push us behind. So we're just gonna change it. Sorry, this is just it is kind of like a review of what we did, but we're just trying to transfer all our data to an actual skeleton now, or player. Now that we're done with that, and if we play, they shouldn't be pushing us. And we're gonna have a speed to 7, because it's too slow now. Our angular speed to 200 and acceleration to 20, and we're done. So now the new part comes in, because now as you can see, we move around, we actually don't play our animation, which is quite stupid because it's just standing there. So as I said, we're gonna go in our click to move script, actually, not our player. Just gonna zoom in a little bit, and we're gonna go in over here, and we're gonna have an animation component called animation. So just similar to our nav agent, we're gonna have an animation component like over here, and we're gonna say animation is equal to get component animation. So we're getting the animation components. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a new method saying void animate. So this method is going to animate the skeleton while it is walking. Now, in theory, what we're gonna do is we're gonna say, okay, if our velocity is bigger than a set amount, so it's bigger than 0.5, a small amount, we're going to play run animation, or else we're gonna play the idle animation. I'm just writing the logic over here. And the reason we are putting in a very small value over here is if we don't put the value over there, it is almost always going to play the run animation, since the velocity is not always zero even though it's standing, because it is very sensitive. Just make sure that it is bigger than a small value. So we're gonna go here, and we are actually going to say if nav agent dot velocity dot magnitude. Now, in your physics, if you have taken physics, you will know that velocity is actually speed and direction. So that is a definition of velocity. So you can say velocity is 20 meters per second in this direction. But what we want over here is we want the magnitude, we want the speed of the nav agent. So that is a definition of magnitude. So when we say magnitude, we get the speed part of the velocity. And we're going to say if it is more than 0.5 f, and f is to represent that 0.5 as a float, we're going to say animation.play, or we're going to say animation.crossfade run animation. So here we're going to have run animation. But that doesn't really work, because what we need actually is an animation clip. An animation, and when I mean by animation clip is this thing over here, this run animation clip, this thing over here. So the trick is we need an animation clip run animation. So we're just gonna have, whoops, and then you're gonna have, okay, sorry, it's doing weird stuff, sorry about that. Then we're gonna have an animation clip idle animation. So now these two are animations that they're animation clips, to be specific. I might call this animate. No, I'm just gonna call this animation. It's just a little confusing with these variable names, but oh well. So now what we're gonna do over here is we're gonna say run animation.name, and we're gonna have an else statement. So we're gonna say if, as I said before, if our magnitude is more than 0.5 f, we're gonna play run animation, or else we're gonna play the idle animation.name. There we go. And of course we need to call the animate method, because we never call the animate method, so it's never going to execute. So to execute this line of code, we need to invoke it or call it, and we're going to invoke it, and we have to actually we're going to name it with a capital A. So this is a little weird I found about the Unity API and just scripting in Unity in general, is that the method names start in capital letters, because in normal coding conventions, a method name starts with a small letter. But when I look through the Unity API, for example, vector3.distance, you see this is a method and it has a big letter in the start. So that is something to keep in mind. It is something that you don't have to do, but it's good coding practice to keep everything consistent, and that is why I name these methods with capital A. But in normal coding conventions, for example, I've learned Java, usually that's what my teachers have taught me, that it's good to start method names with lowercase letters. But if Unity prefers uppercase letters, that is what I'm going to do. And variables always start with lowercase, by the way. And we're gonna check for any errors. No. And let's hope. No, actually, we're gonna go back over here and we're gonna make this public. Because once we make, because we actually, we need to assign these animation clips, because now they're currently null. The reason we don't need to assign this animation variable over here is because we do it over here in the start, but we never initialize run animation or idle animation. So we're going to go to our click to move, And we're gonna drag in the run animation into the run animation. By the way, these animations are present in the skeleton data, and if you click on skeleton and the arrow, you're gonna find these clips. Or you could go into skeleton dark and click on one of the animations, and it's gonna take you where it is present. So we're gonna drag run and idle. We're gonna save. We're gonna hope that it runs. And as you can see, as it runs, it plays the run animation. Now I'm gonna change a little annoying thing I've just noticed. We're gonna change this get mouse button up to get mouse button, because now I don't need to click continuously for the character to move. I can just press and it's gonna move wherever I want it to. Okay, so now that is done, we need to add some attacking animation. So for our attack animation, we need another we need another variable called attack animation, like we have in our attack like we have our idle animation clip. But this animation clip is going to exist in the player and not in the click to move, because combat is not related to click to move, but in the player itself. So we're gonna have a public animation clip attack animation. And now we're gonna go ahead over here, and actually we will also need a public animation because we need to access this component over here. And we're gonna go ahead in our awake. Animation is equal to get component animation. You will also notice that in our click to move, actually, I've just noticed myself as well. Script click to move. You'll notice that we write our code in start in click to move, and we write our code in awake, our initializing code in awake in player. We actually need to. It's better to write it in awake, but the difference between start and awake is awake is always called before start, and that's basically the only difference. It's called one frame before starts when the object comes alive in the scene, and that's the important thing. So let's go back over here, and we get the component. And now what we want to do is we want to go over here where we are actually attacking, and we're just gonna comment this out, and we are going to say animation.crossfade. Sorry, 1 second. Did we use okay, we used crossfade. I'm gonna explain what crossfade is in a second. I realized I did not explain crossfade. Tag animation.name. So here we are saying animation.crossfade attack animation.name. So the meaning of crossfade is basically blend into, because if you're already playing another animation, you need to blend into the current animation, and that's what crossfade does. Because if you do animation.play, it's going to immediately start the current animation, and it's gonna look very abrupt, and it's not gonna look good. It's gonna look ugly, basically. And we're gonna go back. Actually, we have to make this public, and we did. We don't need to make this animation public, since we are already initializing it in awake. The reason we're making this attack animation public is so that we can go back over here, and we can actually initialize it manually, and that is the reason why it's public. That's the same with the run and idle animation, because we were not able to actually initialize them in our awake, and that is why we made them public, so that we can manually initialize them by dragging this over. So we're gonna drag the attack animation and the attack animation, and we are also going to no, we're just gonna play and see how this works. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna press the space bar. And as you can see that when I press the spacebar, nothing actually happens. And I'll tell you why. This is because what is happening is we are playing the idle animation, and we're also playing the attack animation at the same time, because as you can see, we are standing idle and our magnitude is less than 0.5, and that is why it is invoking this crossfade. So it's saying, okay, play the idle animation, and it also says, okay, play the animation.crossfade, play the attack animation. So they're colliding, and that is why it's just playing the animation.crossfade, idle animation. It's just playing the idle animation. So what we need is we need some kind of flag to say that, okay, now we're actually playing the attack animation, so stop playing the idle animation because you're interrupting my attack animation. Because we don't want anybody to interrupt the attack animation while it is playing, because the attack animation is more important than the idle animation. If you can, that is one way of looking at it. So what we can do is we can have a very simple solution. You can have public static bool. Now bool can either be true or false. I think I have explained bool, but anyways, I'll just explain it in a second. An attack, or we can call it is attacking. Yeah, I did explain bool. So I will not explain bool again. You can look at my previous videos if you want explanation to bool. I've taught it in enemy, yeah, over here, bool block. Okay. So is attacking, and in our when we initialize, when the game object is awake, when it enters the scene, or when it gets alive. So many words. We're gonna say is attacking is false, because we naturally start without attacking, because when the game starts, we are not attacking by default. By default, we're just doing nothing. So we're gonna say is attacking is equal to false. And over here, we're gonna say if we start our attack animation, we're gonna say is attacking is equal to true. And remember to make this static again. And static is something I have explained in my previous videos as well, and you can look over my previous videos to understand static. And in our animate, we're gonna say if player dot is attacking, only then we're gonna make this into effect. No, I mean if it is not attacking, because we don't want to disturb the attacking animation. So if you want to read this off literally, we're saying, okay, only if the player is not attacking. That is what the exclamation mark over here means. It's very important to put the exclamation mark. It flips the sign. So and it's shorthand for not. So if not attacking, we're going to play the animation. But if you're attacking, so else we do nothing. That is basically what it means. So now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna play. By the way, I have changed the range to 3.4 for the skeleton dark, because I actually played before and it didn't work. And that's because when I changed to a skeleton, I had to increase the range of the skeleton because it was actually out of range when they collided. So if you're not able to play, if it is not playing the attack animation, just make sure to just check out the range and maybe increase the range, and check if it works. So increase the range of skeleton dark to 3.4, and I'm clicking on this thing, and when I press spacebar, it actually attacks now. But now you're gonna notice one problem, that it actually never. When I try to go around, my walking animation does not work anymore. Now that's because when I say is attacking is equal to true, I never set it back to false, and now when it is true, this assumes that I'm always attacking no matter what, because I never set it back to false. And now we actually need to set it back to false. And the way we're going to do is we're going to check if the animation is not playing. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go outside the if statement, completely outside and inside the attack method, and we're gonna say um, if animation that is playing with the capital I, remember, attack animation dot name. So we're checking if it's playing, and we're gonna say not over here in the starting. So we're gonna say if the attack animation is not playing, is attacking is equal to false. So it's basically like marking a flag and marking it back, saying that okay, now I'm attacking, and then saying okay, now I'm not attacking anymore. So we're gonna play, and now we're gonna try and attack, and now we're gonna go again, and as you can see, it works as normal. Okay. So now what we want to do is we actually want to do the damage, because I've actually removed whoops, I removed the damage statement over here. Now the reason I removed it is because if I put this back, and if I actually play, and I go to enemy 2, suppose what is, okay, enemy 2, and I look at his health, and I'm clicking on this guy, as you can see, as I press spacebar, it is actually decreasing its health way faster than it's supposed to, since I'm actually spamming the spacebar, and now it's negative 1000. So basically, to tackle this problem, what we want to do is we want to only hit the enemy once during the whole animation, and we need to decide when we need to hit the enemy. So now if I try to play the attack animation over here, I just played the attack animation and I paused it at a certain frame. And I'm just gonna make this a little bigger for you guys to see. So here I pause at a certain frame, and we basically want to ideally deal damage when our skeleton is in this position. So you can just imagine a dagger in his hand, and when he's in this position, you can imagine that the dagger is actually piercing the enemy in some sort of way. So this is the animation frame in when we want to actually impact our enemy, and we only want to do it once. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna record this time. It is 0.37, and what we're gonna do is we're going to add something called an animation event. Now, animation event is something that is inbuilt into Unity, and what it does is whenever we create an animation event in the animation clip, it actually, whenever we play the animation and it passes the animation event, it triggers a method. So it says that, okay, we have passed this animation event and now you have to do something. Now, it might sound very confusing, but I will explain it to you in just a moment. So we're going to go over here in our code, and we're going to create an event. Or actually, we're not going to create an event. We're going to go in and we're going to create a public float attack impact. So this attack impact is going to be this number, 0.37. So as you can see, it is 37%. So this is going to be the percentage of when we actually have to stop, when we have to actually impact our enemy. So as you can see, the number in percentage is 0.37. So we're going to go to our skeleton dark, and we're going to change the attack impact to 0.37, because that is when we want to impact our enemy. And now we're going to go into our awake, and we're going to say attack animation dot add event, or actually we're going to make a new animation event. We're going to call it events. No, we're going to call it attack event is equal to new animation event. So this is how we make a new animation event. And now we're going to say attack events dot time is equal to attack impact. So now you remember I said we can add an animation event to our animation. So we need to specify at what time our animation event is actually at. And that is why we needed the 0.37, because we need to specify add an animation event at 0.37, because it is 37% in the animation. So that is why we have this variable. And you will also remember that I said that an animation event is going to trigger and say that, okay, we are actually at the attack, we are actually at the event, and now you have to do something. So now we have to say attack event dot function name. So when it triggers, it's going to call this function name, and we're going to call it impact. So this is a function that we're going to make now. So we're going to say void impact, and whenever the animation event is triggered, it's going to execute code over here. And just to demonstrate, I'm going to say debug.log attack at 0.37. And then at the end, after we created our attack event, we need to add it to our attack animation. So we're going to say attack animation.add event, and we're going to say attack event. Now this awake method is getting way too much complicated, and it's getting too many lines, so we can create a new method called void init animations. So this is going to initialize animations, and we're going to just copy all this stuff and put this over here. So this is going to deal with animation stuff, and we're gonna call this init animation over into awake. So we just took it out and put it in a new method to make it look a little bit better and nicer. And we shouldn't have any bugs, and we should be able to play. And when I go over and I press spacebar, you can see that it says attack at 0.37, and it will only prompt that when it is in the appropriate animation frame. As if you look closely, I'll try to do it again and make this bigger. And if you look closely, it only prints out when it is in the attack animation frame, if you look closely. So now that is where we're gonna call this opponent dot get enemy dot hit. I mean, it's so hard to pronounce. Sorry. So that this is when we're gonna hit the enemy. So we're gonna get the enemy script and hit. And now we have solved the problem. And now if I go back and I try to attack enemy 2, and I'm just gonna select enemy 2 to check its health, even though I'm spamming, it does not even. Oh, there we go. I did not select it. So as I can see, as even though I'm spamming, it actually reduces its health in a more consistent and realistic manner. So that is partially how do you implement animations. We're gonna still work more on implementing animations and making the game look nicer, because to be honest, it looks really ugly, and the way it flows is really, really bad, as you can see over here. And it is in no state to be like a game yet. But in our next tutorial, we're going to learn on more complex stuff on Unity, and basically how to make our game look better, and just making the combat system better in general. So if you have liked my video, please like it, comment, and share, and subscribe, because it really helps me a lot. And please give this video to any of your friends whom you think might benefit. It helps me, it helps them, and it makes everybody happy. So thank you once again, and see you guys later.